So, good morning and welcome everybody to our Future Made It Clear live Q&A. So let me introduce first. I'm Michael Delle Selve and I work as Head of Marketing and Communications at FEVE, the European Container Glass Federation. And today I have the pleasure to moderate this debate on a very trendy and particularly timely topic. Will wine and glass continue to stand the test of time together as they have done so far? This is the title and the question we want to address today. As you know, glass and wine, since their own origins and through their history, they've always gone hand in hand. But is this also the present? Is this also the future? And as you know, today, the future of packaging is under the spotlight. It's increasingly under the spotlight on the marketplace, at the legislative level, on several perspectives. For some, packaging it's just a problem to solve. For others, it's just a tool to deliver volumes rather than an important and inherent component of the product, rather than something enhancing the product itself and being directly functional to the consumer experience. It's not also a secret, as you probably know, that there is also a mediatic attention to glass. There are quite different packaging solutions on the market, so-called alternative packaging solutions emerging in the recent years, claiming to be superior to glass on the environmental sustainability, on taste, on consumer experience, and addressing glass as a kind of heavy material, oldish material, carbon-intensive material. But is it true? Can they really compare to glass? To try to answer to this question, I have the pleasure today to have really two true experts of the wine universe. We have first Simon Lawson from Casella Family Brands. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Michael. Good morning to you all.
So Simon has dedicated some 40 years of his life, his first 40 years, to the wine industry and the wine world. So he's really an expert on wine. In 2016, Simon joined Casella Family Brands, a family-owned company born out of the dream of an Italian couple who wanted to build a winery in Australia. And today, Simon is managing director at the Casella Family Brands for Europe, and is focusing more and more in building a sustainable and sustainably sound business for this brand. So welcome again, Simon. Then online we also have Dr. Jamie Good, wine columnist at the Sunday Express, wine lecturer and book author. Jamie began. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning.
Jamie began his career by obtaining a PhD in plant biology and ended up becoming an internationally acknowledged wine speaker, writer, and lecturer. He has been wine columnist for the Sunday Express since 2004, has published many books, award-winning books like Wine Science, Authentic Wine, I Taste Red and Flawless. He is also co-chair of the International Wine Challenge. So again, welcome, Jamie. I want also to take just 1 second, just for practical aspects. You are on the LinkedIn chain. If you have any questions, just address these questions online, and we will see if we have time at the end of this debate to address some of them, or we can come back to you later on. So again, Simon and Jamie, thanks a lot for joining me today. So we start with Simon. Simon, like glass and wine, Casella Family Dream also outshines time and place. It's going beyond time and place. How did this dream of moving from Italy to Australia to produce wine came about? Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, of course. You make it sound very grand. I think reality is that post-war Italy, I think, was not a place for a family with great ambition. So in 1957, the Casella family moved to Australia, and in 1965 bought a plot of land in Yenda in New South Wales. I guess blood was always in their veins. They'd been making wine since 1820. back in Italy. And so it was inevitable, I think, that they bought the land, planted vines, and made wine. And John Casella, who now runs the business globally today, effectively created Yellowtail in 2001 on the back of his dream. And it became an overnight sensation in the USA, now number 3 brand here in the UK, and globally the world's most powerful wine brand, according to Wine Intelligence. And today the Casella family business spans 900 employees, 350 growers across Australia. We export to over 60 countries, and we own, amongst other things, the Peter Lehmann Winery in Barossa and the Morris Winery in Rutherglen. So that, if you like, is how the dream fulfilled, or how it came about, and how it's fulfilled thus far.
Yeah, it's really an exciting success story. I mean, it's really a kind of self-made dream that becomes reality, and you have been really a functional part of this dream. And what about glass? Has been glass part and the functional element of this dream? What glass did to help this dream to become true?
I think undoubtedly it's an intrinsic part of the story, of the dream. I think John's vision back in kind of 2000 or so was to make wine accessible to all, essentially replicating what he sees as his family's enjoyment of food, wine, friends, family. And I think the problem he saw at the time was the complexity of wine. You know, we talked a lot about the wall of wine. The flavour of wine was perhaps not as forthcoming as we can see today. Language of wine was complex. It seemed quite exclusive to John. So his idea was to kind of break that down a bit. And the DNA of Yellowtail was really to make wine easy to find, easy to drink, and easy to enjoy. So fundamental to that was the fact that wine needed to be in glass. So, you know, along with its distinctive pack, the glass allowed the wine to be the best it could be, to maintain the quality and to make it really the thing that brought all those elements together.
Okay, thanks a lot. And Simon, how does glass say something about the quality of the project? So, as you say, it has been really functional, inherent component of this project, of this success story. How glass today is helping to say, you know, something about the quality of the project?
I think I'd probably sum it up actually. When I first met John, actually, it was at his winery, at the winery in Yenda. It was over lunch. And it was in the original house that's kind of now surrounded by wine tanks. And we were joined by his family, a number of the employees, and there was me. I kind of feel part of the family now, I guess, 20 odd years later. But really it was, I think, that experience. And John said to me, he said, "Simon, we bottle wine in glass, and only glass." And in part, I think that is all about quality. And in part it's about the experience, and that family food friends experience with John in the original family house has kind of sat with me ever since, and as a consequence it's what John believes, what we believe consumers expect from wine. You know, you can have a can of Coke, but really you have a bottle of wine.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Jamie, on the point that Simon just raised, and from your expert point of view, Jamie, how important do you think glass packaging is in maintaining the quality of wine intact?
Yeah, when I started writing about wine, one of the things, because I came from a scientific background, that I got involved with was packaging and especially closures. And soon I realized that wine is actually incredibly complicated to package well. It's got a very low pH, so it's high acidity. It's susceptible to oxidation, and it usually contains sulfites as well. And so this combination means that the search for alternative packaging for wine has run up against all sorts of difficulties. Because the thing about glass is, without realizing it, I guess, people didn't realize when they first started using glass to package wine is that it's ideally suited for wine because it's completely inert. So it doesn't react in any way with wine. It doesn't scalp any of the flavors, which is one of the problems that many alternatives to glass face, which is that the material itself absorbs some of the flavor compounds from the wine, and it acts as a complete oxygen barrier. And so when it's used together with a suitable closure, wine, the glass bottle is ideally suited to wine to preserve wine quality and not to allow the quality to degrade at all. And there's one more point I'd say with regards to wine quality is that packaging actually affects perception. The packaging is part of the product itself. And so when a normal person buys a bottle of wine, obviously in the wine trade, we pour a wine into a glass, we just obsess about the liquid. The liquid sensory properties. When we taste blind, we go, yeah, and we give it a score and we comment on it. But a normal person has they go into the supermarket or the wine shop or in the restaurant and they see the bottle is there, they open it, they pour it. The packaging is part of that experience of wine. It controls the expectations that people have when they approach wine. And as such, it affects the flavor of the wine. And we know that, having paused my headphones here, we know that, perception is, the actual flavor we experience is strongly marked by things extrinsic to the wine itself, like the drinking occasion and the packaging. So that's part of wine quality as well.
Thanks a lot, Jamie. Back to Simon. So we heard from Jamie, wine quality, taste, shelf life are fundamental, and glass can serve the wine product with its one layer inert packaging material. But let's not avoid the burning question of today. What about environmental sustainability? This is, as you know, of utmost importance, and it's priority for everybody today. We have the 2030 climate targets that we have to address. We have consumers' expectations that we have to address in providing a truly environmentally sustainable packaging material. So looking at your experience with the Casella production way of doing and the brand, how are you addressing this environmental challenge and the sustainably sound aspect required by consumers?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We take our responsibilities on this extremely seriously. For us, sustainability is a 360-degree problem, I guess, is one way of describing it. There's an economic sustainability that we need to maintain. We have growers, employees, we have distributors that are, hugely dependent on us. We have a role in society. We've got to promote responsible drinking. Casella actually has been amazing with, we've supported World Central Kitchens, for example, both in their work with Australian fires in the last couple of years, obviously not this year with the excessive rain, but also in Ukraine, the work that they've done in Ukraine, we put a lot of money behind. But environmentally, we're doing a lot of work in the vineyards and in our wineries in terms of looking after water, ensuring that we use and convert to renewable energy, and of course ensuring that we minimize waste and reuse wherever possible. From a transport point of view, we've shifted from bottling in Australia to bottling here in the UK, and that switch over the last 5 years has effectively saved us around 42% in our carbon emissions just for bulk transport or bulk transport of wine from Australia. And as far as glass is concerned, we continue to journey on the way of lightweighting. We've come down from 500 grams to just under 400 in the last 3 years. We've got a little bit further to go. But we're very excited about the partnership we have with Encirc, who obviously they manufacture our bottles, they bottle our wine, and they do the distribution. Their ambition, I think, for sustainable and environmentally sustainable business is immense. You know more about this than me, Michael, but they've been trying biofuel. They're working with HyNet in the northwest of England to look at use of hydrogen in fueling the furnaces. And then, of course, we work really closely with them and our customers to ensure that our transport footprint is as minimum as we can be.
Thanks a lot, Simon. It's very important that you mention NCIRC. NCIRC is one of our members, and as FEVE, as the European Container Glass Federation, and it's just one of these companies, these glass manufacturers, who are strongly committed to to solve the climate change issue, and they are strongly committed to improve their sustainability score. It's already a European circular business model that works very well, but this does not mean that we are not committed to address, for example, the decarbonization aspects. We have already come a long way in terms of decarbonization. Glass today is 70% less energy intensive and emits 50% less CO2 emissions than 50 years ago. But we are conscious that there is much to do. There is much more to do in achieving the carbon neutrality commitment. So this is clear, and we are working on that. But it's a transition issue, and it's also a systemic change that requires the contribution of all the parties. Many individual initiatives from our member companies are somewhere grouped together under the Furnaces for the Future initiative. If you want to know more about this, you can visit our Glass Hallmark website. Also, in terms of recycling, the industry is doing a lot, and it's already 60 years that we are working on what today other packaging materials are struggling to get: an efficient collection system, recycled content, efficient recycling. As today, we have some 80% of glass put on the market in Europe, which is collected and put back into the bottle-to-bottle loop. This is really a fact, and this is a reality. Glass is a permanent material that once produced is coming back and replacing virgin materials and contributing to the reduction of CO2 emissions and energy use. And but we want to do more also there, and there is also there a big initiative, Close the Glass Loop, a multi-stakeholder platform that is trying to achieve the 90% collection target by 2030. So if you want to know more about these initiatives, you can visit our website, the Glass Hallmark website. So I close the bracket here, but it was just to contextualize your point there on NCIRC collaboration, which is again a kind of a factual success story that you can refer to. I come back to Jamie. Jamie, looking at glass, but also looking at what's happening on the market, you know that there are a lot of packaging materials coming on the market: paper bottles, cans, wine, bag-in-box. Can you just put some order there? How glass compares to these other materials? What's your scientist, expert point of view there?
Well, as I said earlier, there's a big issue with the actual technical ability of these other packaging to preserve wine quality, certainly to preserve wine quality over the long term. And also they're quite complex packaging, you know, so often if you look at for example, the paper bottle, it's not really a paper bottle, it's a plastic bottle surrounded by paper. And then you've got PET, you've got multi-layer, you've got various oxygen scavengers that have to be combined into the packaging. And so when you start looking, then they do become quite complicated. And I love that people are trying to find alternatives, looking for them. And I applaud the technical progress that's been made. But still, you know, I just think that glass does such a good job. It seems to be very hard to move away from it. And also the other thing is that people have been trying for a long time with alternative packaging. And with the exception of markets like Sweden that have very particular reasons why, for instance, bag-in-box has taken off, and that's kind of unique to the Swedish market. They remain in a niche, and glass remains the primary packaging for wine. And I think that's largely because people like wine in bottles. It's what wine is. Wine comes in a bottle, and there doesn't seem to be a consumer pull for glass. And I was chatting yesterday to a leading supermarket buyer, and I said, how much push and how much pull do you have with your customers? And he was saying, well, actually, you know, really largely it's about consumer pull. We can try and push things, but people have to choose them, and people choose what they want. And I think as an industry, it's very, I think it's just, we just need to be a little cautious that we don't tell people they're stupid for not going in the direction we want them to go in. And so I think that's something to be aware of as well.
Thanks, Jamie. And you mentioned also, glass experience, consumer experience. What about design? What about consumer experience? In your opinion, considering also that wine is an alcoholic beverage, so it's important to give the message, about responsible consumption, moderate consumption. How does glass contribute to the overall drinking experience when compared to these other materials?
Well, I think that we have this cultural tradition of wine and its healthy use at table as an accompaniment to food and as a drink that has its roots in the cultures of many European societies. And and the conception of wine for most people isn't simply, as I said before, it's not just this liquid in the glass. It's not this sensory experience of a liquid in the glass, which is what we tend to obsess about. I think wine for many people is this object, wine in inverted commas, that is a liquid that comes in a bottle. It's sealed. You unseal it. You pour it into a glass, and that's something that's really at the heart of the wine consumption moment and experience. And even when you've got a situation in restaurants where you've got wine on tap, often the wine will be decanted into a lovely carafe or a bottle, glass, to bring it to the table to be poured from. And that act of sharing and pouring, I think, is a really important part of the culture of wine. And I really like that as well. And I think with the beer culture, I grew up in a beer culture where you had your own pint of beer. When I went to Belgium to the beer places where the beer came in a bottle that was sort of the size of a bottle of wine, and people shared and poured the beer. And the beer drinking culture there was very different to the beer drinking culture I'd grown up in. And I say this because I think that once again, the packaging and the expectation and the moment of consumption is really a place where the wine industry can add value to wine. And once you start stripping down the packaging and removing the packaging or using utilitarian packaging, even if it's a well-motivated move, what you risk is stripping value out of the wine chain. You strip profitability, and we commoditize wine, and there's been enough of that in the past. It's something we don't want to do. We want to keep wine as something that's, something there's an everyday pleasure, but it's a special thing. It's wine.
Thanks, Jamie. Simon, according to your experience, what are consumers looking for? What does this match with what you are seeing as a request from consumers, and the recognition of the brand? How does it work in comparison with other materials?
I think it is very much. I agree entirely with Jamie. I think it's really interesting just to look at spirits actually from a glass point of view. They add incredible value through their glassware, and I think that is something that wine actually in some respects can learn from. That said, I think one of the things that struck me, I remember visiting Provine about 15, 16 years or so ago, and I remember walking into the Provence Hall and being struck by an astonishing display of bottles of Provence Rosé in slightly different shapes, sizes, but the colour and the design was incredibly impressive. And I think that's gone a long way to really building a Provence brand, if you like, for Rosé that is really, really impressive across the world. And you see brands like kind of Whispering Angel doing astonishing displays in on-trade environments. So I think brands recognise it, no question. No doubt that if you look at the facts, UK consumers favour glass, no question about it. If you look at the UK numbers, 97% of sales in the off-trade are made in glass. 93% made in glass. Around about 7% is bag and box, and well under 0.5% in PET or cans. And if anybody wants a smaller format, they tend to be buying in glass, so 250 or 175. So consumers choose glass because of that quality, because of the taste that they get, because actually they believe it's sustainable. There's a French study, I think, that was done that suggested that 94% of French consumers believe glass is sustainable, is recyclable, and I think that's important. Having said that, and Jamie's right about alternatives. There is growing awareness of alternative packaging. The consideration is growing slowly, but actually the purchase the purchase impact is not that high at the moment. So, for example, there's a 65% recognition of bag-in-box, but that only converts to 11% purchase. And that's a study that came from Wine Intelligence. But I think, for consumers, it enhances the experience. There's no question about it. I mentioned World Central Kitchen earlier. Jose Andres, the Spanish chef who founded that, he made a great quote, which I thought was it kind of covers it to a large degree, which is every time I open a bottle of wine, it is an amazing trip somewhere. And I think, that kind of, for me, sums up what wine's all about. There's a real magic that we absolutely need to protect.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Simon. So we come, time is running, so we come to the last and big question. So do you think that glass will stand the test of time? So what's your opinion about it? Let's start with Jamie.
Yeah, I think that for reasons I've already said, I think glass is really highly associated with wine. Its performance technically is really hard to emulate. Its green credentials are there. I mean, I've got some figures that in 2019 in the UK, of the glass, 71% recycled, 19% to aggregates, 10% to landfill. Not perfect, but that figure of 71% recycled. Well, consider in 2020, the figure was 74.2. Plastic recycling was 47.2. So I think glass does have those credentials. It's something we associate very strongly with wine. It helps the wine industry make wine more profitable. And yeah, I think, look at sparkling wine, for instance. I don't think there's anything come close to start emulating the properties of glass when it comes to sparkling wine, which is now a high proportion of the market. So yeah, I suspect its future is quite strong.
Thanks. And Simon, what's your view there?
Yeah, 100%. Consumers prefer it, winemakers prefer it, and there's no question it is sustainable. However, the caveat there is that, to Jamie's point, we can do much better on recycling, and we need to drive that hard. I think we need to continue progressing on sustainable and renewable energy, and I think the ambition in the glass industry there is remarkable. It is a journey, I grant you, but I am sure that net zero is achievable in glass, and that's exciting. And I think in the meantime, we need to keep progressing on further lightweighting, particularly on premium wines, where glass weight can be, unquestionably quite heavy. So yeah, definitely has a future.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. On this last point, yeah, I agree with you. The challenge is there, but we have a kind of roadmap there. We know what to do, and we know where the solution is regarding decarbonization. So we need all to work together. I think this is important. Our industry has to do our job, and this is clear, but we need to work all together on that. And also on lightweighting, on right-weighting, as you mentioned before, bottles today are 30% lighter than 20 years ago. And if you look at the wine market, 85% of the bottles that are on the market for wine are standard bottle that are considered light or medium weight bottles. So actually, in terms of weight, there's already a lot that has been done, but this does not mean that we have to improve and continue to improve on that. So we are almost at the end, but let's see if there are some questions from the LinkedIn chat. So I have a question, I don't know who wants to address. So should retailers do more to improve wine bottle recycling through collection, or are we happy with a mixed recycling approach from local council? This is, I think, really a UK related question. So I don't know who wants to address this question, Jamie, Simon? Both?
Yeah, I think there does need to be a much more concerted effort to up the level of recycling. I think, as I understand it, I think recycling in Wales is much higher than it is in England. I'm not entirely sure that the Scottish Parliament have got the right answer with their DRS scheme. I'm not sure it is wholly endorsed or embraced by the industry or indeed the retail world, and that does therefore provide challenges. But I think we can probably do more to advertise the fact that wine should, or bottles should, be recycled, and I suspect that through kind of local council recycling and better collaboration with retailers, I think we can make great progress on that.
Okay, Jimmy, do you want to add anything there?
No.
Okay. Thanks. So I think we are at the end. I'm just looking if there are other points or questions from the chat. I see there are comments, but not really questions. So I think it's time really to wrap up, and I hope that you find these 30 minutes interesting and insightful. Thanks a lot to Simon and Jamie for that. On my side, I just take some key conclusions. The first is that we understood from Simon and in its relationship with NSERC, the industry is more than ever committed to address the decarbonization issue, to work on finding new resources, improving and innovate the production technology, increasing the recycling, reducing weight. So there's really a commitment there that it's not just in NSERC, but in the whole European container glass industry. I think this is a very important point. But we also heard from Jamie and Simon as well that glass is not just CO2, it's not just weight, and it's actually much more than that. We heard keywords like shelf life, quality and taste preservation, consumer experience, product enhancement, brand identity, product value. So all these keywords were part of our debate, and seemingly keywords that well fit to glass, and we don't know if they well fit to other packaging materials. So because of that, I think this is just my personal conclusion that glass is indeed fit for the future and will continue to stand the test of time, and surely for wine and the wine market at European and global level. Before wrapping up, I want to just also to remind you, and actually to make a teaser there, we have also asked the consumers if glass is fit for the future, and next week, in occasion of the European Waste Reduction Week, we will publish results of a consumer survey that we have done in 10 countries in Europe and more than 4,000 people, asking them what they think about packaging materials and glass. So stay tuned stay tuned with us, and we will surely bring more information about that. Also, if you want to know more about the glass industry, of course, do not hesitate to contact us and to visit also our glassormac.com website, where you can find all facts you need about glass. So with that, I really thank you, Jamie and Simon. Really thanks a lot. It was really a very nice experience with you. And I also invite people to stay tuned with us. We should have a new episode of our Future Made Clear LinkedIn Q&A in December. So stay tuned. Goodbye, and thank you again.